Evidence-based practices in teaching writing to students with extensive support needs. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the conference. My name is Ty Williams, and I am a National Board Certified Teacher from Missoula, Montana. I teach at Hawthorne Elementary, where I serve students in extended resource in grades kindergarten through second grade. In addition to that, I am a student at Clemmer College at East Tennessee State University, where I am seeking a master's degree in advanced studies in special education. Finally, I am a member of the Vanderbilt LEN Consortium. LEN stands for Leadership and Education in Neurodiversity Disabilities. Today, we're going to be talking about evidence-based practices in teaching writing to students with extensive support needs. In particular, we'll be addressing the needs of students with autism, intellectual disabilities, and developmental disabilities. All right, let's get started. Let's start by talking about what is writing. Writing is a system of graphic symbols that can be used to convey meaning. There are two very important components of writing. First is the use of graphic symbols. Next is the fact that writing is used to convey meaning. So why is writing important? Next to oral communication, writing is the second most understood topography of response. Writing is needed throughout all aspects of life. Writing is used for daily living and organization through the use of lists, communication with resources, and employment requirements. Writing is used for social interaction and connection through texting and emails. It's used for building and sustaining relationships. Writing is used for self-expression and creativity through journal writing, through the writing of stories and writing of poetry. Writing is a way of recording your thoughts and accessing reinforcement. Writing allows self-determination and is used for pleasure. So what is written expression? Written expression refers to a highly complex, cognitive, self-directed process. And ultimately, isn't that what all educators want? They would like for all students to engage in self-directed written expression. That includes students with extensive support needs. But how do we do that? How do we work with students with extensive support needs, like students with autism, intellectual disabilities, and developmental disabilities? Let's start by looking at what we've done in the past. Historically, students with extensive support needs were not expected to participate in writing activities due to what was viewed as a lack of ability. How would these students access writing? How would teachers teach them? Unfortunately, this resulted in exclusion from many educational, employment, and social opportunities. Luckily, things have changed. Along with the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or IDEA, special individualized education for students with disabilities must be delivered via individualized education plans. Students with disabilities must have access to the general education curriculum and participation in state and district assessments. They must also be taught by qualified special education teachers. There were many benefits that also came out of No Child Left Behind. Schools are now held accountable for the outcomes of all students. That includes students with extensive support needs. All students must have access to academic content and achievement standards, and they must participate in annual assessments. Finally, students must be taught by qualified general education teachers. Here is a wonderful graphic showing the benefits of No Child Left Behind and IDEA. Thanks to No Child Left Behind and IDEA, all students, including students with extensive support needs, are required to have access to the general curriculum and to be taught grade-level academic content standards. This includes writing. Students with extensive support needs may face some challenges when it comes to writing. For example, students with autism spectrum disorder may have a difficult time understanding abstract concepts which can affect writing. They may have difficulty taking another's perspective, which affects writing for an audience. There may be difficulty with spelling or sensory issues relating to the use of writing instruments. They may also hyperfocus on details without seeing the whole picture. Challenges faced by some students with intellectual disabilities and developmental disabilities may include difficulties with executive functioning. This would affect things like organization, working memory, planning, memory, and recall, all of which are required for writing. There may also be fine motor deficits. This would affect handwriting. There may also be difficulty accessing writing through technology. How do we teach writing to students with extensive support needs then? In 2012, Dr. Robert Pennington did a literature review of writing instruction for students with autism spectrum disorder. This is what he found. He found two studies related to writing and story elements, two studies related to sentence construction, one on narrative writing, two on persuasive writing, 4 studies on spelling, 1 study on adjective usage, 1 on Japanese character construction, and 1 on the use of action in describing words. There was a dearth of information related to writing instruction. In 2019, Dr. Robert Pennington and Dr. Pamela Mims conducted another literature review of writing instruction for students with intellectual disabilities and autism spectrum disorder. This time, they also looked at the strategies used. There were 11 studies on spelling. Strategies used included copy, cover, compare, chaining, and match to sample. There were 6 studies on sentence writing. Strategies used included response prompting, the use of sentence frames, the use of technology, and differential reinforcement. There were 3 studies on story writing. The strategies used for story writing included response prompting, the use of sentence frames, and the use of technology. And then finally, there were 7 studies on narrative writing. Strategies used included response prompting, self-monitoring, and technology. Here's what we've learned. So what works? Research has shown that writing instruction should be explicit. It should be highly structured, systematic. It should focus on critical skills and content, and skills and concepts taught should build on one another and occur in a logical order. Writing instruction should be systematic. It should be based on the principles of applied behavior analysis, and that the instructional sequence should include an antecedent, a prompt, a response, which is the expected behavior, and a consequence, which is reinforcement. When it comes to reinforcement, immediate reinforcement works best. Let's talk about writing as communication for a moment. In 2021, Dr. Robert Pennington looked at both vocal and writing behaviors and the progression of learning. When looking at vocal behavior, he noticed the sequence of learning typically occurs as follows. First, one learns to request. Next, one learns to label. And then one learns to engage in conversation. When looking at writing behaviors, he noted that first, one typically learns to write for access, followed by learning to write about things you see, followed by writing about things you know. What else works in teaching students with extensive support needs to write? Focusing on the interaction between the writer and the reader in the early stages of writing development is extremely important. Students need to understand that writing is purposeful, and reinforcement needs to occur immediately. Research has shown that natural consequences work best. So what would that look like? Let's take a look at the graphics below. The student writes a message in any variety of ways indicating that he, she, or they want an iPad. The student gives the message to a reader, and the reader responds with a natural consequence. In this case, giving the student the iPad. This makes writing purposeful and meaningful. Does this sound familiar? Special education teachers have been doing something similar for years. It's called the Picture Exchange Communication System, or PEC. Remember, writing is communication. We must teach writing with a purpose. But where do we go from there? Let's start with sentences. So what is a sentence? A sentence is a group of words that expresses a thought. It can be about someone or something. It gives information or more detail, and it makes sense. When teaching students with extensive support needs to write sentences, where do we begin? One place I suggest beginning is with the selection of whole sentences. Students would have started with writing single words or choosing single words. Another option for writing is selection of whole sentences. This assists in teaching the concept that a sentence tells you something, gives you more information, and makes sense. Let's take a look at the graphics below. The student would look at a picture, and then the student would choose the whole sentence that tells about the picture and gives more information. Remember to check conference links for examples you can use and modify in your own classroom. So let's look at the research. Another way to teach sentence writing to students with extensive support needs is through the use of sentence frames. What is a sentence frame? Sentence frames typically come in a fill-in-the-blank format. Students complete the frame to express a thought or their knowledge. Sentence frames are scaffolded to give variety and to increase in difficulty. They're used in the early stages of writing instruction and are predictable. Let's look at the research on sentence frames to teach writing to students with extensive support needs. The title of the study is The Use of Response Prompting and Frames for Teaching Sentence Writing to Students with Moderate Intellectual Disability. The authors and researchers are Dr. Robert Pennington et al. The interventions used included constant time delay and the system of least prompts. There were 3 participants with moderate intellectual disabilities, ages 7 to 12. The results were that participants produced 3 types of sentences and they maintained skills during generalization. Sentence frames taught included, I want blank, I see blank, and the blank is blank. During probes, a preferred item from the student's preference assessment was placed on the table in front of the student. The student was directed to write a sentence to tell me what you want. In another probe, a picture was presented to the student, and the student was directed to write a sentence telling me what you see. Finally, another probe was done in which the student was presented a picture of the "this is a blank" probe and directed to write a sentence telling me about the blank. What it looked like. First, researchers conducted a preference assessment. They obtained the student's attention. Researchers presented a directive plus a target stimulus and waited 10 seconds for the student to respond. This was the time delay. They checked for completion and delivered either praise or a reinforcer for correct answers. If a student made a mistake, the teacher erased the answer and presented a model of the correct sentence on a card. He, she, or they pointed to the correct word on the card and waited on the student to make the correct word selection. Response prompting procedures were used if students didn't answer within 10 seconds or if they made an error. 2 students who were using assistive technology were given the system of least prompts. Constant time delay was used with the third participant who was writing. Students received a tangible related to their I want sentence frame or phrase as a reinforcer. Let's look at more research. Let's look at writing sentences. Next, students will begin generating their own complete sentences. Sentences may be copied or they may be chosen from a word bank. Now let's look at research on sentence construction. The title of this study is A Pilot Investigation of an Autonomous Technology-Based Instructional Program for Teaching Sentence Construction to Students with Extensive Support Needs. The authors are Dr. Robert Pennington et al. The intervention used was the GoWrite app and constant time delay. There were 8 student participants between the ages of 8 and 21. All participants had moderate to severe intellectual disabilities, and the results were improved outcomes in 7 of the 8 participants. What did the intervention look like? Researchers presented the GoWrite app prototype to students. It included both a stimulus picture and a word bank. Students were prompted, what do you see? Write a sentence. Teachers could choose 5 sessions of 0-second time delay or only 1 session. Students were presented with the correct sentence under the picture. They were prompted through correct word selection by highlighting the correct words. A ping sounded and a coin was placed in the student's bank for correct word selection. What happened during 8-second time delay? If the student responded within 8 seconds, a ping sounded and a coin was placed in the student's bank. However, if the student did not respond within 8 seconds, he, she, or they were prompted through the correct word selection by highlighting the correct words. Before we look at the GoWrite app prototype, I'd like to make a disclaimer. I receive no financial support and have no financial interest in any of the products shared during this presentation. All products are presented solely for the benefit of writing instruction for students with extensive support needs. Now, let's look at the GoWrite app prototype by Attainment Company.
GoWrite! Hi, I'm Rob Pennington, and I'm an associate professor at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. When I first started working in the area of written expression and severe disabilities, a lot of people ask me, why are you doing this? Aren't there more important skills that you want to teach this population? And my argument was that in a literate society, written expression is probably the second most understood response form. So it's a powerful tool for communicating with others. Kids communicate through text messages with their peers, heck, even with their grandparents these days. And kids need a written topography to show what they know in academic settings.
To help, GoWrite was created, a fun instructional app that helps students learn to compose sentences.
Hello there.
Assisting are Professor Robinson and Robin the robot.
Say hello, Robin.
Hello.
To help fix Robin, you need to put these sentences back together.
GoWrite uses errorless learning for a fun, positive experience.
What do you see? Write a sentence.
In zero-time delay, only the correct word is prompted immediately.
The car. I see the car.
In constant time delay, no prompting. Now all the words are available. If the student selects the wrong word,
Touch this word.
the correct word is automatically highlighted.
The.
And if the student doesn't respond, after a few seconds, the correct word is prompted.
Touch this word. Tree. I see the tree.
I think it's a wonderful program for kids with special needs. It has visuals and it encourages students to have fun with their writing, and they can transfer this over to skills in the classroom.
I see the bus.
I have a student who in the beginning was having extreme trouble just touching the words. But after about a month now of doing this, he's writing whole sentences. And he has shown so much improvement. I've been very impressed with how he has done, and I'm very proud of his effort and his hard work.
Along the way, students earn coins to buy avatar accessories at the GoWrite store, or to play a fun game.
It has cool games, and it's teaching him. The first word is always capitalized, which is kind of cool, the period, and he's picking up on that really good, really fast.
There's also Friends, a built-in texting feature, so students can text a friend.
Seen a lot of progress in my students the first day and going through the study. I think it's great.
In future developments, we'll focus on writing in classes like math, science, and language arts, and a journal mode so students can write about their own lives. With iterative classroom research, GoWrite grew and improved. A multiple probe research design with 9 students from first grade to high school showed the efficacy of the GoWrite prototype.
GoWrite is rooted in about a decade of research in which me and my colleagues have repeatedly demonstrated the effectiveness of systematic instruction on teaching kids to write. And we are replicating these procedures within the GoWrite product, which is pretty awesome.
Now, students are learning to write with
GoWrite.
The GoWrite app is a prototype. It's not out on the market yet, so I can hear educators saying, but I don't have the app. Make sure you check conference links for examples you can use and modify. Below are 2 such examples. Remember, when using these examples, you'll want to start with 0-second time delay and then move to whatever time delay is appropriate for your student, perhaps 5 or 10-second time delay. Here's an alternative. In this example, instead of having the sentence written under the picture, you would have a model of the correct sentence on a separate card. You would then use that card for your response prompting. What do we do for students who prefer or require technology in order to access writing? Let's take a look at Clicker Sentences by Crick Software. Clicker Sentences can be downloaded free on Chrome.
Clicker Sentences, an innovative app from Crick Software, develops writing skills in young pupils, struggling writers, and English language learners, helping them build their first sentences 1 word at a time. They just tap on the words to write their sentences. Realistic speech support enables active engagement with the text and encourages pupils to reread their sentences to find and correct errors for themselves.
The butterfly pushes itself out of the chrysalis.
Pupils simply swipe to get to the next sentence, and they benefit from child-friendly tools and different types of model sentences to match their needs, including a model on the grid, an auditory model, and a pop-up model. Children can extend their learning using the simple keyboard to change or add to their sentences. Clicker Sentences enables you to quickly create sentence-building activities on any topic and to modify them to meet your pupils' needs. Simply type or paste your sentences and then add a model, change the order of the words and the color of the grid, and even include a picture with the sentence. You also have access to free ready-made Clicker Sentence sets on learning grids. Go to the site directly from the app and open the resources instantly. These sets can be edited and personalized for your pupils, and new sets are added to the site regularly. Share your Clicker Sentence sets and documents quickly and easily through email. or you can access your resources with Clicker Sentences Dropbox integration. Combining classic Clicker features with the latest classroom technology, the Clicker Sentences app gives your pupils access to a proven literacy support tool developed specifically for the iPad. For more information, visit the Crick Software website or call 01604 671 691.
So far, we've looked at writing with single words and the construction of sentences. Next, let's take a look at narrative writing. What is a narrative? A narrative is a written account of events or things that are connected. Let's take a look at some research related to teaching narrative writing to students with extensive support needs. The title of the study is Using Simultaneous Prompting and Computer-Assisted Instruction to Teach Story Writing to Students with Autism. The authors are Dr. Robert Pennington et al. The intervention included simultaneous prompting and Clicker 5. There were 3 male participants, ages 7 to 10, all of whom had autism. The results indicated that the intervention package was effective in teaching story writing to students with autism. Students showed generalization after 7 days to 4 weeks, although one student only generated 1 correct sentence. Another exciting outcome of the study was that one participant showed generalization to vocal responses, which was not targeted during the study. What did the intervention look like? Researchers used Clicker 5 for computer-assisted instruction. There were 3 story templates. Cells in the word bank contained only 1 word, which were arranged by subjects, articles, verbs, and objects into 4 vertical columns. The app provided auditory feedback. The teacher used simultaneous prompting to teach students to write a story using Clicker 5. Sessions consisted of 1 daily probe, and students were presented with one of the 3 story templates chosen randomly. The teacher used a task analysis of steps needed to write a story using 4 sentences in a predetermined order. The sentences included 1 stating the character, 1 stating the setting, another stating an action, and a final sentence stating the consequence of the first action or an action that occurred as a result of the first action. But what if you don't have the app? Remember, you can always use Clicker Sentences, which is free, or you can make your own. Just a reminder, allow students to choose the topic of their writing as often as possible. What's next? Next, we'll be looking at opinion writing. So what is opinion writing? Opinion writing is writing that expresses one's opinion and justifies it with reasons and/or facts. Now, let's take a look at research on opinion writing in the general education curriculum as it relates to students with extensive support needs. The title of the study is Use of a Technology-Based Instructional Package to Teach Opinion Writing to Students with Intellectual Disabilities. The authors are Dr. Robert Pennington et al. The intervention included constant time delay, the use of sentence frames, and the Clicker app. There were 3 male participants, ages 10 to 12, all of whom had intellectual disabilities. The results indicated an effect in teaching opinion writing, and the results were generalized in both maintenance and generalization phases.
Thanks to funding from IES at the Department of Education, Access Language Arts is an iPad app by Attainment Company.
Neighbors by John Sherrill.
Jiro Ninomiya came to
It's designed for middle school students with intellectual disability and autism to give them access to the same books their peers are reading.
This research project was an iterative process to provide a way for students to meaningfully access grade-aligned English language arts content.
8 stories were chosen for the app: Holes, The Outsiders, Number the Stars, Dragon Wings, We Beat the Street, Neighbors, The Diary of Anne Frank, and Sadako. The single subject and random control trial data show that students improved in comprehension, writing skills, and student-led research. First, students learn vocabulary words.
Which word means people who live near you?
Neighbor.
Say neighbor. Touch vegetable for me.
Touch vegetable.
Good.
Next, they read the adapted text.
Stanley did not steal the sunflower seeds, but he took the blame for it.
Stories have been simplified with picture symbols.
became friends.
Then they answer questions.
Okay, so what did Jiro Niamiya grow in his greenhouse? Did he grow apples, roses, or mice? Very good. Check your answer for me.
Good job.
Next, students are guided to develop their own opinion and write a paragraph based on facts they've learned from the story.
Nice writing, Jalen.
Denmark was similar to times before the
Then, students learn more about a topic using the process of KWHL.
Neighbors by John Sherrill. Let's touch the K. We see that teachers are really embracing it and have been really excited about what outcomes they're seeing with their students.
I've seen growth, tremendous growth in comprehension of any text.
As we start the story, it's the calmest they are all day long.
Pick one for me, Katie.
Yes. Yes. Some of my students are knowing, like, that's the word right there. I see it.
And they're getting those materials that their peers and regular ed are getting as well. I actually had a peer tutor come in and say, we're doing that story in my English class. So it was cool that both my kids and them could connect what they're doing.
Everything that I like to do in my classroom is in that program. It's all built in one little place. And that's what makes it a really awesome tool.
An outsider looking in may think they cannot. And now we can say, yes, they can. Here's why. And we have research to back it up.
Access language arts, systematic and research-based to help open the world of literature.
Let's take a closer look at Access Language Arts by Attainment Company. First, the adapted general education curriculum story is read. Following the story, students write their opinion. What it looks like. Students are supported via prompts throughout the writing process. First, students choose a topic related to the story. Let's take a look. Write about the story you just read. Choose a topic, a big idea, or a character. Next, students respond to prompts that frame their opinion writing in paragraph. Let's look at the prompt. You chose to write an opinion paragraph about a character. Write a sentence to introduce your topic to your reader. Now, the student's writing. I will write about Samson, who is a main character. Supports are embedded to assist students with writing. Let's take another look. This time, let's look at a reason. A reason is a detail or piece of information from the story that supports the opinion. In this part of the story, Samson was different from other kids because, and then here are listed choices for the student. In the end, the student has a final product. It is an opinion writing that states an opinion that has reasons and a conclusion. Let's take a look at the final product. I will write about Samson, who is a main character. I think Samson was similar to the other kids in his neighborhood. Samson was similar to the other kids because he loved playing in the park with his friends and brother. Samson was also similar to the other kids because he tried to do the right thing, even if it was not always easy. In conclusion, Samson was similar to the other children in his neighborhood. As you can see, through the supports of prompting and the use of vocabulary, the students were able to write a complete paragraph that had an introduction, 2 reasons to justify their opinion, and a conclusion. But I don't have the app. Let's go back and remember, you always have clicker sentences. In addition to that, you can always use paper copies that you make yourself if needed. Let's take a look at 2 other findings that came out of research related to teaching writing to students with extensive needs. 2 interventions that have proven effective are the use of assistive technology and computer-aided instruction. In addition to that, interventions using peers as writing partners have also proven effective. After sharing the results of many other researchers' work, I'd also like to share my research with you. In October, I will begin my research study related to sentence construction. The title of my study is The Effects of Time Delay on Correct Word Selection for Sentences Constructed. The intervention includes constant time delay and clicker sentences. What will my study look like? My study is an extension of the work done by Dr. Robert Pennington. I will be filling a gap in the research by embedding writing instruction for students with extensive support needs in typical academic routines and instruction. I will be using clicker sentences. Writing instruction will be embedded in a story-based lesson. We will be looking at correct word choices to construct sentences. The app will provide auditory feedback, and I will be using constant time delay. When we look at correct word choices to write sentences, students will be writing the following sentences during a story-based lesson. I will read the story and stop at 3 points during the story, at which time the students will be using clicker sentences on an iPad app to write the sentence, I see A, at 3 different points within the story. After the story is completed, students will then write the sentence, I read about A. As with other studies, I will be using clicker sentences in which each cell contains only 1 word and a word bank will be provided. Here is an example not using clicker sentences. I have adapted numerous books and written story-based lessons for stories such as If You Give a Mouse a Cookie. I will use the story-based lesson task analysis to teach the lesson. At one point in the story, I will stop, hand the student an iPad with clicker sentences, and direct the student to write a sentence about what you see. The student may write, I see a mouse. I will continue reading. At a second point in the story, I will stop again, hand the student an iPad with clicker sentences, and direct the student to write a sentence about what you see. The student may write, I see a cookie. A third and final time, I will stop after reading, hand the student the iPad with clicker sentences, and direct the student to write a sentence about what you see. The student may write, I see a napkin. After the completion of the story, I will hand the student the iPad with clicker sentences one final time and direct the student to write a sentence about what you read. The student may write, I read about a mouse. Thank you so much for your time and for your support of students with extensive support needs. I so appreciate you joining my session and for your interest in learning about writing instruction for students with extensive support needs. If you'd like more information, I encourage you to check out these resources. You can also explore the researchers to find out more information and more research on writing instruction interventions for students with extensive support needs. Thanks again, and I hope you have a wonderful conference.